Hello and welcome to MeynellTV episode 7, the penultimate edition, where I hope to bring a little bit of joy, thinking and knowledge into your lives. I was asked this week what Playworkers did, and I gave a different sort of response to my usual. You see, when I think about what Playworkers do, the thing that Playworker does the most, and that possibly being a little controversial here, is tidy up. If a key part of our role is about creating supporting spaces in which children can play, then actually tidying up and making those resources accessible and available is vital in what we're doing. We have to remember that we are not there for the child's social education or moral education. We are there for the child's play. And when children are in that flow of playing, they move from one part of their playing to another part of their playing, and as that flow on their own or with others happens, sometimes they finish with equipment and materials, stuff as I like to call it, and they don't need it anymore. So we clear it up. I once had a stand-up argument with somebody on a training course who felt that if a child dropped a piece of paper, then we should make them clear it up and not let them go and do anything else until they picked up that piece of paper and put it away in the right place. That might be appropriate in school, and that might be appropriate in some home environments. Did a staffed play provision where we are trying to make sure that children have the best opportunities to engage in play that they want to engage in the way that they want to engage it. Well, we should spend a lot of time clearing up, picking stuff up, putting stuff away. It needs to be done with the degree of sensitivity that we don't actually put stuff away that children will come back to. Having the awareness of what the children are doing, and when a play frame is finished, means that we know when it is right to clear up and when it is wrong because it would interfere with or disturb the child's play. So please clear up and create nice spaces for the kids to play in. Welcome, Kelsey. Thank you so much for agreeing to be my guest this week on MeynellTV. I'm really excited that you're here. I'm honored that you're here. I'm grateful that you agreed to do this interview. And I had a whole set of reasons for asking you. And the most important one for me was I wanted to get a perspective from somebody in America about what's going on there, but who also has a relationship to play. So can we start off by you just telling me what it's like in the US right now?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. This is very exciting for me too. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the US right now. I'm in Illinois, so middle of the country. Um, there's a lot of tension right now in a lot of areas, both because of the pandemic and because of the ongoing protests against police brutality. So, a lot happening right now. Um, Yeah, and because of the pandemic, I'm not offering any programs right now through Coop Adventure Play. So things are kind of on pause there, but the work still continues.
How
Yeah.
do you think the the Black Lives Matter and the campaign that has been raised by the George Floyd murder and by other police brutalities impacts on children's play lives?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, and I think I should preface it by just saying that I'm a white woman who grew up in a very small white town, and that I understand that my perspective is um, limited and growing. I've spent several years trying to kind of unlearn some of the things that were handed to me, and I really believe that's the job of all of us. I think that the Black Lives Matter movement is really important. I work with kids of all races and backgrounds and ages and everything, um, and it's really important that they're all considered equally. Um, because things are different in each of their lives. I think, my efforts in working for local change in policy, marching for local lives that have been affected by this, as well as marching for lives lost that have more of a national view and national reach, is definitely a part of my advocacy for children's play. Because I can't advocate for children's play and take down barriers to play for them without also advocating for the barriers that their families face. So,
Now, you mentioned Coop. A lot of people watching won't know anything about this organization. Briefly, just tell me more about Coop and where it came from and what it does.
yeah, so it's Coop Adventure Play, and Coop stood for in the beginning Kid Owned and Operated Play, but that just really started to feel like a mouthful, so I just shortened it to be a little more clear and to attach it to the larger adventure play movement really clearly with the name. Um, Coop was started, it's a small nonprofit that was started 5 years ago, a little more than 5 years ago. And we work in central Illinois advocating for play, also providing for play, and more helping other adults um, offer better play provision in their settings. So um, our day to day looks a lot like offering an after school adventure play program, staffed by playworkers. And then we also do camps during breaks from school in the winter, spring, and then usually 10 weeks over summer, which of course we are very sad to not be able to do. There's also kind of the community arm of Coop that I'm always really proud of that involves going into neighborhoods where kids live and offering play provision. Um, and I like to specifically target neighborhoods that don't have a lot of play provision for whatever reason. There's a couple of neighborhoods in my cities that the nearest park is on the other side of a really busy road. And so there's these pockets in town that don't have access. Um, so that's one of my favorite things to do, usually in the summer, is to go in and bring play right to their neighborhood.
How do you do that?
Well, we use Pop-Up Adventure Play's model, and we've known them since the beginning. And so we have a trailer that we have that's full of cardboard and fabric and I mean everything.
Okay.
And we bring it and we kind of open up a space for play. So sometimes that means kind of activating a vacant lot and saying we're here, or we'll be here tomorrow, or whatever offering we have, or a community garden, or sometimes even in a park that doesn't have a lot to offer children. Some parks, are just just trees. So sometimes they're looking for something a little more. So it's nice to bring in some other variables.
How does the relationship between Coop, Adventure Play, and the communities you work in, and the Black Lives Matter, and your own increasing awareness, how does that all mesh together?
I think in my mind it meshes together so clearly. Um, we live in a pretty diverse Twin City area, and we go. I seek to go into all neighborhoods, so I never want to target one type of neighborhood over another. I want to literally be in every neighborhood. Um, and I know locally, our Black Lives Matter movement currently, like today, is very much focused on one specific case of police brutality that occurred just several blocks from my home in front of a park that we offer multiple pop-ups at each year. So there was an incident that happened in April where police used excessive force very clearly. It was recorded by other citizens, and this park was in the background of this video. And those things together just really broke my heart. Every instance that I've seen of these videos of Black people being targeted by police breaks my heart and moves me to tears. But to see a park that I do work in the background was another layer, a little closer to home. And so for me, the intersection seems really clear. And honestly, it seemed clear even before that most recent example. I have Black children in my programs every single day. And you know, I share photos of wonderful Black children and tell the stories of their play on Coop's Facebook page. And then I worry for what it'll be like in a few short years when they're not small and cute anymore, when they're full-grown Black men and they're targeted unfairly by police. So for me, I care about these children, I care about them as people, and I care about what their future might be. And so for me, it all intersects so clearly.
And you also told me before we recorded the interview how much you care about their families and the communities as well. And I think that's really, really important.
Yeah.
For me, play work is not just about the work we do with the children, but is often we go beyond that part of play work to play work plus, where we're working with the communities, we're talking to the adults, we're advocating for children's play. And in this case, you're not just advocating for children's play, you're advocating for children's very right to exist. Kelsey, it has been an honor for me for you to be my guest this week on MeynellTV. Thank you so very, very, very much. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
And now, come with me as we go across to the big chair for this week's Playworks Story. This week's story, the WD-40 Boy, was written by Sam Faulkner when he was working in the London Borough of Barnet. It was back in October when I started working at the after-school club. I'm fully aware of the children being wary of my own disability. Partly the reason why I enjoy working alongside children is for them to become more culturally aware of people with disabilities and feel they have the power to ask direct questions. Every day is always different at the club, and this day was no other. I was working in the physical play area by continuing to join in the games that the children played, or if they asked me to take part in their games. However, I was sitting talking to a couple of the children, talking about school and general topic about what's happening in their lives. They left, and this boy, Jack, approached me with two of his friends, looking puzzled. Jack and his friends came and started asking questions about my poorly left arm. Jack said things like, "Why is your arm like that? And why do you walk funny?" I tried to explain to Jack, as a baby, I became ill, had a stroke in the process. Jack and his friends sat down and looked serious, really interested in listening to the conversation. It came to a shock when Jack then jumped up and started moving his hand around. "Sam, can you bend and straighten your arm like this?" Jack was actually trying to demonstrate the movements. I automatically replied, "Jack, this is impossible as it could break my arm. I would like to point out his movements were like a robot." Jack followed on with his serious face and stated, "Well, you could just put a bit of WD-40 on your arm and that will make it all better." I sat there and laughed, and the boys were looking at me strangely and fundamentally wondering why I was laughing. I tried to explain to them that this could only be used on certain materials, like metal. However, Jack replied, "Dad uses this on everything." It's amazing and funny what children talk about, the direct answers they give. I still get questioned about the children, about what things they can and can't do. I feel it's a great comfort that children can ask these questions. A play worker is a resource in the environment. And when we go into a place to work with children, we take with us all of who we are and all that we have. And we need to be prepared for children to ask questions. And sometimes for some people, those are difficult questions. I've been asked about my eyes. I've been asked about the weird birthmark on my leg. And it's my responsibility to answer as honestly and openly as I can, because children are genuinely interested, and children don't carry the prejudices and attitudes that are learnt by the time they reach adulthood. I hope you enjoyed watching episode 7 of MeynellTV. Thank you so much to Kelsey for being my guest this week. I am so glad she joined us. Next week is our last episode in this series, our first series of MeynellTV, and we'll be back in September for series 2. Don't forget to use the hashtag MeynellTV across all our social media, and please remember to like, subscribe, and leave comments below. Thank you very much. Bye. Yellow car. Fast yellow car, expensive yellow car.